friends, it's Kim at Foggy Bonnet. This week on my Facebook Live, I presented this project. It's an Easter basket. I showed my viewers how I constructed this, and I also shared an alternative project, which is a shower favor basket. And today I'm making a video to show how I completed this version of my basket. This one has some stamping around the top and uses a few different pieces from the Easter basket. So I'm going to get started by just going through the materials that I'm using today and the tools and the stamp sets. First of all, I'm using the Under My Umbrella stamp set, and I'm taking the Showered with Love sentiment from this set, as well as the umbrella stamp that's found in this set. And also I'm using the coordinating umbrella builder punch, which will cut out my stamped umbrella and the handle for the umbrella. I'm using the stamp set pattern play to do the pattern around the top of my basket. I used this pattern, but there are several others in here that would be really fun to use. I like this polka dot pattern, but today I'm going to use this, I don't know what you would call that, just the dashes, I guess, because to me it looks like the band around the top of a basket. And I'm using a couple of dies from the In Bloom set for my small flowers. Both of them cut multiple pieces at one time, which is handy. One quick run through the stamping or the die cut machine, and I'm done. I got 3 of the little flowers in one cut and 2 of these little stitched flowers in one cut. So those. And also I just wanted to mention that the tag that I used on this Easter basket is actually also located in this set. I really like this tag. It's stitched and it has a pretty cool shape to it. And this flower's from the In Bloom set also. I used the white twine from the Snail Mail Twine Combo Pack. I'm starting with a sheet of cardstock 8.5 by 11 and a scrap of my coordinating color. I'm using a contrasting color, and I believe this is Mint Macaron. And I'm using Coastal Cabana ink. We'll see how that goes. I didn't have Mint Macaron ink, but I think this is pretty close, and it'll read the way I want it to on the So Saffron cardstock. So I used the double oval punch for the sentiment on this one, and a 1.5 inch circle punch for an element on the basket. And I'll talk about that, alternatives you could use if you don't have this punch. Okay, so to get started, I want to get out my paper trimmer, and we're going to cut a 1/2 inch strip off of the short end, or the 8.5 inch side of our cardstock. So that's going to give us a 1/2 by 8.5 inch strip, and that's going to be the handle of our basket. There we go. So we'll set that aside, and then we're going to cut our cardstock to 6 by 6. We're going to start with a 6 by 6 square. That will be the body of our basket. And you want to keep your scraps handy because you'll need them in a little bit. And then next we want our scoring tool. And I'm using the Simply Scored scoring tool. So we're just going to place this up in the corner of my 6 by 6 cardstock. First I'm going to score it at 2 and 4. So let's see. I like to use the small end of this. I am going to score at 2 inches and at 4 inches. Then I'm going to rotate 90 degrees, and I'm going to score at 1/4 2, 4, and 5 3/4. So 1/4, 2, 4, and 5 3/4. So now I want to rotate this 90 degrees again so that one of these small 1/4 inch sections is at the top. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to place a tick mark right in the middle of the 2-inch sections, each 2-inch section. So I'm going to put a tick mark at the top at 1 inch, 3 inches, and 5 inches. So now I have a tick mark at the top in the middle of each of these 3 sections. So I'm going to rotate the paper 180 degrees so that the other side with the 1/4 inch score line is at the top, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a tick mark at 1 inch, 3 inches, and 5 inches. Let's go ahead and do this part. So go ahead and cut, or punch rather, 2 1.5 inch circles, and if you don't have this punch, like I said, you can use the stitched shape dies or the nesting circles dies, anything that has a circle that is approximately 1.5 inches across diameter. Okay, and the reason I'm punching these now is because I want to score these right in the middle. And I tried to do it by hand. I tried to just fold these in half by hand, and I was successful about half of the time, so I thought I'd be safe and just score them first before trying to fold them. So these were 1.5 inch in diameter, so the middle will be 3/4 of an inch. And I'm just putting the circle against the left hand edge and the top edge and scoring at 3/4 of an inch. There we go. So next we're going to draw some lines on our large score piece. Actually, first let's go ahead and fold and burnish this. We're only going to fold and burnish on the 2-inch score lines, not on those little 1/4 inch score lines. So there will be 4 altogether that we're going to fold and burnish on. There we go. So now we're going to draw some guidelines for some cutting we're going to do. And I'm going to show you the template here. This is a picture of what we're going to cut away. Everything that's shaded, we're going to cut away. So we're going to draw these guidelines right now from the tick marks down to our other score lines to show us where to cut. All right, so that's what we're doing. So I just have a little ruler here and a pencil, and you can make these lines as light as you can because anything that's left showing, of course, you will erase. So I'm just going to lightly draw a line, and I'm drawing it from the tick mark down to the intersection of these 2 score lines. And this one I drew out to the edge to where the score line intersected the edge. You see that? So from the tick mark down to the corner. Oops. Okay, so we're going to turn the cardstock around so we have the other tick marks on the right here. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is take my paper snips, oops, and cut out these sections. I'm going to cut these shaded sections away using the lines that I just drew as my cutting lines. And this one, this end piece, I find it easier to start from the outside edge and cut up to the tick mark. And while I'm on this side, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the tips of these triangles where that 1/4 inch score line was. I don't know if you can see that. You can still see the score line. Maybe on the other side you can see it a little bit better. So I'm just going to use that as a guide to cut off the tips of these triangles and make them flat. Just like that. And I'm going to repeat this on the other side. There we go. So I'm going to clean up my scraps here. And I want to erase any leftover pencil lines. So if I were making the Easter basket, I would just proceed right now to put the basket together. But I'm doing the shower favor basket, and so I want to do some stamping before I actually construct the basket. And I'm going to be stamping on the edges that will be at the top of my basket. So that's this edge, this outside edge, this edge, which is an end of the basket, and then this edge, which is a top right here. And then we skip the middle piece and we come along this outside edge and along here, and then this edge. And then we're going to stamp on the circles too in a second. So I'll leave this here for reference. I need a scrap here to test my stamp. Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty. I think that's going to work just fine. Okay, so I'm kind of using the top edge of the stamp to just position it. I'm lining the top edge of the stamp up with the edge of the cardstock. Not the actual image on the stamp, but the top edge of the backing of the stamp, if that makes sense. There we go. And then across this edge, which is the end of the basket, just like that. And then down this edge, which is the back triangle. There we go. And then we're going to switch around to the other end and do the same thing. Up this edge, along the end, and then down the other top edge. And you could use any stamps at all to do this. I happen to like this one for the top edge of my basket. But you could use flowers. In fact, you could stamp your entire piece of cardstock. You could just do random stamping over your entire piece of cardstock if you wanted and make a design that way. So I've stamped on this. Now I want to stamp my circles. And so I'm going to stamp along the fold. So I haven't folded these yet. Fold. So what I want to do is I want to stamp the circles next to the fold. So I'm going to open them so they're flat, and I'm just going to stamp on the lower half up against that fold. Like that. So when I put these together, that will make a continuation of the pattern. All right, so now we're going to assemble our basket. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold this piece in a little and then bring these two sides up so that they overlap that middle piece. So I'm going to use glue dots. I tried it both ways. I tried using liquid glue and glue dots, and I find the glue dots are just a little bit easier. So I'm going to take a glue dot and just put it on the end of this middle section up here where I cut the tip of the triangle off, and I'm going to overlap, oops, I'm going to overlap one of these side pieces. Doesn't matter which one you do first, just overlap one of them. Then take another glue dot, oops, and place it on the section that's now on top, and bring the other section in, just like that, and just give it a squeeze. And it doesn't matter if these are not quite lined up perfectly, because we're going to cover this with one of the circles in a minute. So now we're going to flip it over and do the same thing, just press this one in, and we're going to bring the two sides in over top of it. Bring one side section in, and I'm just kind of lining up the flat edge of that triangle with the right edge of the middle section, and the lining up the top edges. It's not exact. A lot of it depends on how accurate you were when you drew your lines and your cutting. But like I said, it doesn't matter, because we're going to cover up where they all meet in a minute with those circles. So then we're going to put a glue dot on top of the top section and bring in that remaining side and just kind of line up the top edges here and press it just like that. So now you can see our basket has taken shape. Okay, pretty neat. So the next thing we're going to do in our assembly process is to put these circles on. And I did use liquid glue to do this part. So I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue on this circle on both halves. And then just, can you see how the sides kind of bow out on the basket? So when I'm putting one of these circles on, I'm squeezing the basket side in a little bit to straighten it. And I'm just laying this, straddling the side with the folded circle, laying it down, and then just squeezing it to make contact with the glue. There we go. So you can see how the pattern continues across the circle. And then we just do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to give this a half a beat to make good contact. All right, so we're going to get the other circle now, and same thing, just put a little bit of glue in here. And again, I'm going to just squeeze this side in so it's straight. Straddle it with the folded circle and just squeeze it to make contact. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is put the handle on, and I'm just going to give it a gentle curve with my fingers. You could use your bone folder to do this. Not too much, just a little. Just curve it a little. And then I'm going to apply the glue to the outside of the handle, because it's going to adhere to the inside of the basket. And when I adhere it, I'm going to place it so that the two corners just about touch the edge of the circle, not quite, and centered in that middle section. Don't know if you can see that in there. So just like that. So a little bit of glue down here on the end of this. And I'm just centering it in the middle of that middle section. And I'll give it just a few seconds to adhere. And then the same thing with the other side. Just a little bit of glue on the end. There we go. So we'll set that aside and we'll work on our decoration for our basket. So I'm going to stamp my umbrella on a piece of what did I say this was? Mint Macaron cardstock, and I'm using Coastal Cabana ink. I think it works pretty well. And let's see, I also need to stamp my sentiment. Showered with love. So I'm going to punch out the umbrella. And I want, if I had been smart, I would have had this all in one punch. And then I want to just punch out my sentiment using an oval punch. And I want to keep the sentiment kind of over to the left so that my umbrella handle fits on the oval. So there are the pieces. And I already have my flowers cut out. I did the die cutting earlier. These pieces. There we go. So I'm going to assemble my little tag here. And the first thing I'm going to do is attach the handle to the umbrella. I'm going to use my silicone mat in case I have some glue going astray. I'm going to put a little bit of glue just on the tip of the umbrella handle. And then I'm going to glue the the umbrella handle to the sentiment tag. Like that. And I'm going to put my flowers on. And then I'm going to adhere it to the half circle that's showing on the side of my basket. And I'm just going to put the glue on this half circle. Goodness, there's sirens outside. I don't know if you can hear all that. So I'm going to just put glue on the half circle that's showing here. And basically cover that half circle with the oval. It's a pretty good fit. It just almost perfectly covers that half circle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the twine around the umbrella handle. Don't need too much. I'm just tying a little bow here. I'm going to put a Stampin' Dimensional behind this, but first I want to put the twine around this handle and tie it in a bow. Now what I'm going to do is put a Stampin' Dimensional behind the canopy of the umbrella to just pop it out away from the handle a little bit. So I'm just going to pull that away and hide this behind the umbrella canopy and then just adhere it. So that gives it a little stability and dimension at the same time. And then finally I'm going to just glue on a couple of flowers just tucked in behind the tag. There we go. Little shower favor basket. You could certainly make these in bridal colors for a bridal shower, but I am really liking the baby shower theme here today. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And also visit foggybonnet.com and sign up for my newsletter. My newsletter readers hear from me weekly with news from Stampin' Up!, special projects. Sometimes I have special offers. So thank you very much for watching today, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.